Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and Mojang have recently snubbed a fair few features from coming into Minecraft solely on the grounds that they are not realistic. Something which makes sense on the surface because although Minecraft is a blocky game, it's meant to be representing the real world, right? It's meant to be realistic, or so you might say unless you've played the game and you realize that everything from carpets to chickens to the way you cure poison are anything but. All of these features are actually very illogical, and so today I've collected all of the examples that I could find into one massive mega video to give you 68 weird pieces of Minecraft logic, the representation, the reasons, and hopefully by the end of this video, the realization that Minecraft is not a realistic game and honestly never has been. By the way, I'm gonna say the word subscribe and give you this animation just for a second, like I know other YouTubers do, because it does make some number of you consider checking if you're subscribed, or maybe even consider doing so for the future. And in case that sounds like something everyone does, trust me when I say I want it at least 12% more than those other YouTubers. And so with that said, let me prove it by showing you the first weird thing about Minecraft. Did you know that cats will take no fall damage? I know in the real world they always land on their feet, but that still means that they would die if you threw them off a skyscraper. But in Minecraft, this isn't true, and let me show you by making it rain cats and dogs, or maybe single dog. This is something that you just saw. He fell right down and immediately took no flinching and decided to jump down another similarly heighted fall because cats have no fall damage, something that is not true in the real world. And indeed, you could argue Minecraft is trying to mislead people about what happens when you throw a cat out a window, which you definitely shouldn't do, just like how you definitely shouldn't do this when it comes to crafting stairs in the real world. Every Minecraft recipe is crafted in a fairly intriguing way in my opinion, but these stairs are one of the confusing versions of this because if you are to take one of these blocks and try to craft them into one of these blocks, you should require about 3/4 off that to get this, right? And so if you use 6 of these to get how many of these, you'd expect around 8 or 9. However, the actuality is you craft them into a big staircase and you end up with 4? That would make perfect sense if you used 3 blocks for this recipe, but it's not. And also, by the way, this recipe doesn't even line up with the number of stairs you get because 3 blocks would represent the real staircase we have, not the staircase that Mojang likes to believe. Crafting recipes in this game are not based on reality, but instead based on vibes. If you take 6 planks of any type of wood, you get 1 type of door that looks like this, something which also doesn't match reality in any meaningful way. Look at the height that you would get with 6 blocks if you place them down. It would be 1.5 times higher, 2 times wider, and about 8 times thicker, but so instead, that should give us about 24 times more doors than we currently get, which I think is kind of crazy. You know what else I think is crazy? We can talk about crafting recipes all day, but one of the weirdest ones is the trapdoor, not just for the way that you craft it, but also the way the trapdoor works in regular Minecraft. This is one of those bugs that they implemented a long time ago that people have built farms around that they have to keep in the game, but if you've not seen it, trapdoors, even in the downstate, I can understand in the upstate why this is a traversable block, even when a trapdoor's in the downstate, mobs don't know it exists, and so they'll just walk onto it as if it was up like this. This is because Minecraft mobs just can't detect whether the trapdoor is up or down, and so they always assume that it's up, and they'll walk towards you using it, and then realize, oh no, can't do that, and fall right in the ocean. This might just seem like it's a dumb zombie thing, but even with villagers, it's a bit slower and harder to prove, but even with villagers, this exact same thing works. Place down a villager and watch as he decides to move somewhere in 3 to 5 business days, he'll actually fall right into that gap right there. This is ridiculous, and it's something they kept in the game solely because people made farms around it, but it's proof that even a feature that makes no logical sense, there's not even an alternate universe where trapdoors would be traversable when they're down, that makes no logical sense, but it is a lot of fun. The villagers just walked over it successfully. Wow, I guess he is actually quite smart. Speaking of people who are quite smart, if you in Minecraft decide to feed your horse golden food. However, you know who's not smart? Anyone who decides to do this in real life. If I give my lovely horse named Tesco a golden apple, he gets very, very happy with me. However, that's kind of dumb if you think about it, isn't it? Gold is actually poisonous. Apples are a decent enough food, but don't give gold to any animals in the game or real life unless you desperately want to breed them and you're aware of the consequences. This is a case where Minecraft has, they just want to make horses a more desirable item and make them harder to breed, and so they've done so using a rarer type of food, but that rarer type of food is poisonous to animals, including humans, but that's a point for another time. You know what isn't a point for another time? The way fall damage works. Have you ever noticed, this is something that's now fixed between Java and Bedrock, have you ever noticed that if you take if you jump down from a really big height, you are not a cat. I mean, I'm a cat, but you're not a cat, and therefore you will take full damage. However, do so in the same boat, and you don't for some reason. This is illogical, you might say. It's very fun for gameplay reasons, and people do make all sorts of fun versions of it, and it's an example of Minecraft prioritizing the fun of the player versus the realism. You would expect going off a fall that big in a boat, you would take a lot of damage, unless it's got some really good suspension, which we could maybe buy that it has great suspension, but then consider that a single block of water will also do the same for you, a person. I am now 20 meters up in the 25 meters up in the air. This is the height of like a 5 or 6 story building. This is what you will die from in the real world, so don't trust Minecraft on this one, but if you can just fall in the water, you take no damage whatsoever. This is, if you jump in a pool from that height, you're still gonna die, by the way. Water starts to eventually work like concrete in the real world, but in Minecraft, water is water, and any amount of it will escape any amount of falling. By the way, speaking of any amount of water, this is one of these classic versions of a mechanic which is really, really fun for gameplay, even though it makes no sense, and it's a proof that I think Minecraft can have. Okay, so look at this, by the way. I put 2 water buckets in there. Now I can move this water, let's say, over there. And now I can grab both of my original buckets out. Where did that third water come from? In fact, wait, I've got another 4th water here now too. Infinite water sources have existed in Minecraft since the dawn of time. This is the easiest and simplest version to do, but the fact that you can do them at all is bizarre. You might even go as far as to say it's illogical. In fact, wow, that's the title of the video. We don't need to go through the next 60 now, we're done. But you know what wouldn't make me done? Explaining how swimming upstream works. So I can't swim very well in real life. I could just about swim on a smooth surface, but no one can swim, no matter how good they are, up a waterfall. But I am not just anyone. I am a cat who doesn't take full damage, but swims very well in exchange. That is insane that I just swam up a waterfall, but this is standard practice for the swimming mechanic in Minecraft, which is just sprinting, but in water. It's easier to understand if it lets you do weird things like this, even if it doesn't make any sense, and that is an important characteristic about Minecraft. Sometimes these mechanics are really fun. Like, for example, if you were gonna make cookies in the real world, I've tried smushing together some wheat and some cocoa beans and just eating the result, but it actually tastes terrible. And, you know, people tell me to stop baking them cookies, please, but instead, if you were to do it in the real world, you would need a campfire at minimum, but realistically, a smoker, a blast furnace, or a furnace, I guess an oven, to be realistic. But yeah, in Minecraft, you just cook the cookie and it's entirely fine. Or rather the biscuit, because I'm in British English right now. You know, thank God for that. Speaking of thank God for things, I didn't realize that British English had biscuit changed to cookie until just now. I thought it was just New Zealand English. Anyway, speaking of things that are in different languages, let's talk about the way that lighting works, because all around the world, it is expected that if you are holding a light source, like say a torch, that it works in your hand as well as when you place it down. In fact, it works better in your hand, most people would say. That's why Indiana Jones is always holding one. However, in Minecraft, it does not work until you place it down. Take it back up to put in your hand, and it stops working. This is undynamic lighting, or the absence of dynamic lighting, and this is a technical limitation, but it's a technical limitation that players understand so well that you probably didn't even think about it till I mentioned it. They could go through and solve the technical problem to make Minecraft more realistic, but they'd rather focus on the other features in the game, which are actually more fun, and I entirely respect that, but also it is a trade-off they are choosing to make, just like with floating blocks. You know, for a game that is trying to vaguely represent the real world, why is it that all of the blocks can float? I say all of the blocks can float, but actually, as you can see right here, only some of them can. Sand can't float. Soul sand can. Iron anvils, they can't float, but the blocks of iron, they can. There is no rhyme or reason behind which blocks do have gravity and which ones don't. It is just expected that you know and understand that some of them do, some of them don't, and it's perfectly okay that way, damn it. Speaking of perfectly okay, let's talk about the no added water. So this is something fun. You need food in Minecraft, right? You need to go into your fridge and grab food all of the time, or maybe you need to cook it up or whatever you want to do, but you don't ever need water. This is because adding a first bar to the game would be a use for all of the water in the world, but it also wouldn't be necessarily fun. In fact, arguably, the food bar in Minecraft isn't a fun mechanic, it's just a survival one. Do they need more survival mechanics in this game? That's something you can debate, but that's the reason we don't have it. Speaking of technical limitations, realistic biomes are not a technical limitation. If they wanted to, they could make Minecraft worlds match the real one perfectly. You can make it be so that you've got to travel 6 million blocks to go from, a frozen peaks biome all the way to a desert, but that is just like in the real world. The Sahara is very far away from Antarctica. However, that wouldn't be fun, would it? It's much more fun to have weird mashups of world by going for a less realistic feature. Sure, they have sacrificed realism, but they've made a much more intriguing world for players to go around, and they make this trade-off all of the time, just like with, for example, overcooking. So let's throw in some raw iron and let's throw in some raw cod into the same furnace. Bear in mind now that raw cod needs to be cooked at about 180 to 200 degrees Celsius. That's like, I don't know, 400 American degrees. However, if you were to, and bear in mind, this is the same furnace that is cooking with the same fuel. However, if we were to throw raw iron in there, for that iron to be smelted into any meaningful state, we need it to be in there about, I think it's 1169 to about 1500 degrees Celsius, or about 7 times as hot. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, to be honest, like 1200 M16s back to back. The point is to say that if you look at it, these two things cooking in the same furnace makes no sense, but having one furnace that can do both is a much better gameplay experience for almost every player. Speaking of gameplay experience, okay, something I don't think anyone likes are the weird broken music discs. They exist for lore reasons, and the most recent of these is 5. In the real world, if you don't know how records work, there are these little divots on the vinyl, and that is what the record player is using to work out how the sound should be stored. It takes a lot of proper care to have a record, but in Minecraft you can just take 9 pieces of it, jam them together like so, and then it plays perfectly. Or maybe this is why it doesn't play perfectly in the jukebox. But yeah, 5 is a very, very, very odd disc. Not my favorite one, if I'm being totally honest with you, but the fact that you can play that despite having put it together with sellotape in a crafting table, I mean, I'm just saying, it's pretty wild. Speaking of pretty wild, golden food. How is it? Oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't be putting random pieces back together. That's clearly the disc is broken, just like how clearly Minecraft is broken if they think that gold and a carrot is better for you than just eating the carrot. Carrots are a vegetable, they are higher in fiber. Gold is high in poison, and you don't want to eat poison. If you did eat poison, though, I'll mention it in a few steps time. But for now, let's talk about how if you were going to die from that poison, we could use your bones to end deforestation. That's right, every single bone in the human body can be turned into freed bone meal. This is a widely accepted and known fact, and if you were to take this bone meal, as I am today, you could use it to grow a tree. Is this how the real world works? Probably not. Is this a fun representation of how fertilizer is in Minecraft? Yeah, sure. But yeah, grinding up villagers and using their bones to run an entire forest is something that you should not do no matter where in the Amazon you are. Speaking of Amazon, you can't, no matter how great you try, find fish on Amazon. It's weird. Every now and then, does anyone try this? Like, just type something weird into Amazon, see if they sell it. I've tried that quite a few times, but something they'll never give you is raw fish. However, if you do want raw fish, all you need is a single half block of water. That's right, there is 0.5 meters of water here. There is clearly no fish in there, and yet, if I leave my bobber in for long enough, you know what's gonna happen? You know? I hyped it up, but there we go. I found a pufferfish in there. What sense does it make that there was a pufferfish hiding in there without me knowing it? Even just the item of the pufferfish takes up most of the space. It doesn't make sense. The point is to say that fishing is meant to be a reliable mechanic that can work anywhere. It doesn't rely on actual fish to be there, and partially because the fish came later, that is one of the big reasons why they've done it that way. But yeah, I've now got pufferfish, and let's hope I don't need to eat it. Speaking of not needing to eat it, how not to die after being poisoned. If I did eat the pufferfish and get very heavily poisoned, do you know what I could do? I don't know what I could do. I'm presuming it's something to do with my hangover cure I've got here. If I just empty out my water bucket, which is, by the way, a meter by a meter by a meter of water, in metric units, I think that's 1,000 liters. It might be a million, but I'm pretty sure it's 1,000 liters. Or maybe that's just a liter. No, that's definitely a lot more than a liter. It's a lot of water. So if we now take that same amount of cow juice, which I'll get right now, and if we drink some poison, by just drinking this amount of milk, which I will do very quickly, you can cure any poison. This works for bees, this works for anything in the game which is a negative status effect, because milk cures it all. Imagine in the real world, seriously, just for a second, imagine that you're on your deathbed, and you're like, oh, doctor, the cancer's really gotten me, and he goes, you know what I've gotten? I've got this huge I've got this huge gallon container of milk. Chug it all quickly and you'll survive. If he did that, you would sue him for malpractice, but if you're playing Minecraft, then I hope you don't have cancer, but also, you don't need to worry about it. Speaking of things you don't have to worry about, have you noticed how every cow in Minecraft is milkable? This one and this one are both doable because every single animal in the game is both male and female. So you can milk animals but also breed them. Every animal has udders but also horns. This is very bizarre. I don't have to explain this too much, but it does mean that, for example, you can breed any of two animals together. It also means, for example, this is unrelated, but I want to mention it. I said carpet in the intro, and now I've mentioned the other two things, but I haven't mentioned the way that carpet is illogical. Look at the size of carpet. It is 1/16 of a block tool. It is designed to go on top of the blocks that you have for your floor without, so that way you can have like a nice effect to it without having to make the floor out of wool. It's a very fun effect for many people, and fun fact, you can see it does raise your character up by that tiny fraction of a block, but the way you craft it is dumb. If I have 64 wool, then logically I should get 16 times as many carpet, but how many do I get? I get 96. Even though it's this much thinner, I'm just really bad at working with wool or condensing it down or something like that, because this is all I end up with. What's the reasoning, Mojang? Why are you like this? Speaking of why we like this, let's throw away my carpet and let's eat my pufferfish, because boy would I like to get poisoned again. Oh no, I'm poisoned, better drink some milk. Thank God. That miracle doctor is still around. Next up, let's talk about the color of water. If you've been around your Minecraft world, you'll notice that swamp water, sea water, and all of the other waters look different based on the biome that you're in. This is a really fun feature, but if you scoop it up in a bucket, as I've done so, for the swamp, for the sea, for a random mountain stream, and indeed for the water that I was swimming in earlier, even though I did all of that, all of the waters look exactly the same. That's because water does not retain its properties when it's in a bucket, which is another just weird lapse in logic for water. All water is the same in terms of when it's in a bucket. It only changes when you place it to be matching the biome you place it in, which isn't a logical Minecraft feature. Also, the fact that that water stays right there is a little bonus fact for you. Speaking of bonus facts, if you get water in your sponges, something which happens to all of us all the time, do you know how you could get rid of it? You go to the Nether. I think. I hope. I'm just kidding. Once you go to the Nether, you find there's a lot of very scary dudes here. But let me show you something fun about the Nether, which is you can immediately dry out your sponges. By placing wet sponges in the Nether, they immediately dry out. This means that if you just want to dry out your sponges, you can use a furnace. It's a very slow and boring way, or you can come to the Nether and watch as all of the moisture from your wet sponges is slowly drained out. I need to get back into the overworld, and I need to do so safely. So here's my plan, right? I'm just gonna jump down, I'm gonna seal up the portal using sponges, and I'm gonna hope that no one comes and bothers me. Go. Okay, no! Yeah, there we go. Nailed it. Thank God for that. I have to say, I love survival challenges so much, I can't help but do them even in entirely unrelated videos. But speaking of unrelated, let's move on from the piglins, or zombie piglins, to the 25th weird illogical thing in Minecraft, which is sustainable power. Unlike in the real world, where obviously power needs to come from somewhere, there is no infinite momentum conservation, and really all power has to be earned, basically. In Minecraft, you can have infinite power by just putting an observer block next to redstone, and then every time it is powered and unpowered, it will send the signal back out, effectively using power to create power. This works infinitely for making a piston activate over and over again, or if you want to be noisy, you can do it with a note block too. But yeah, infinite power exists in Minecraft because it's a fun gameplay mechanic, and it doesn't exist in the real world because of the laws of physics. Although Minecraft probably could make something fun from the real laws of physics, they chose the easier option, and honestly, I don't blame them. As someone who rarely uses too much redstone, I think that the mechanics how they work work right now are complicated enough without having to worry about power generation too, but maybe that's just me. Speaking of maybe just me, the proportion of animals in Minecraft is ridiculous. This is a bat, look at the size of him compared to a bee. Those two maybe line up just about, but then look at a spider and compare them all to me. None of these sizes or scales makes any sense, but it's more fun and it's more interesting to look at when you can see a bee on a human scale, which is why they do it that way. Speaking of human scale, let's talk about eggs. We'll ignore the difference in the size of the eggs for now, because obviously a turtle egg and a sniffer egg and a dragon egg, you might argue there's a bit of a disproportion happening here, but one of the weirdest things is the fact that all of these eggs will hatch in very different ways into very different monsters. Why does the dragon egg not hatch? Well, that's a bigger question for a bigger time, but for now, let's talk about this. This is one of my favorite contraptions ever. Hanging a chicken from a very high height is something you can do infinitely and the chicken won't die because food isn't required to survive in Minecraft, it's just required to breed. But the weird thing about breeding chickens is it implies there are two ways for a chicken to give birth. There are the eggs, which you can slowly collect, and I've been doing so. As you can see, throw enough of these eggs and you might just get a baby chicken, or if you're unlucky you won't, but you can get baby chickens from eggs, I'm sure it is known, but you can also get baby chickens from live birth, because in this game there are bird chickens and there are mammal chickens, and all chickens are apparently able to do both if they want to. That is not how the real world works. There is no animal that can give birth from an egg. You know, we humans have eggs, but we don't give birth directly from them, as best as I can tell. But in Minecraft, chickens cannot work out if they're birds or mammals, which honestly most people don't question, which is why it's good game design. Just like how you might argue it's questionable game design that if you have a cat and you feed the cat his favorite treats, all of a sudden a collar appears out of nowhere. All I had was bones and the cat spawn eggs. How did that turn into a collar? It appeared from nowhere because this is there to indicate to the player, you know, they could make the game realistic and make you have to find a collar, but by putting the collar on there, it indicates it is an own dog and all of a sudden kind of separates it out. Although, you know, then the logical second question is, why is it when you tame a cat, you get all of these different types? So let's use the cat breed viewing device to show you. We have the Siamese tuxedo black cats, as well as jelly trabby. I love jelly, by the way. I love a trabby. And then we've got ginger trabby, Persian, and British shorthair. Wait, we have British shorthair? Didn't even realize that till just now. I didn't know that was the name. I just thought he was a grey cat. Look, we have British shorthair cats in Minecraft, and you can tame all of these varieties, but when it comes to dogs, you've got one variety. He is dog. And then we have, if we really want, dog as well. Or not a cat if you really want to. I think that's a little bit strange, don't you? It's kind of the opposite of that meme where, you know, dog owners are like, oh no, he's a half Alaskan semi-husky, and they'll spend thousands of dollars on their animals, whereas cat owners are like, yes, I have a cat, his breed is orange, and I love him very much. This is very much the opposite of how it works in Minecraft, but yeah, we don't question it. This one, to me, is something they probably could fix with dog breeds. In fact, I think a lot of people would like them to, but it's just a inconsistency between when they developed the dogs, they were going for an easy solution. When they developed cats, they were going for a more complex one. And yeah, there's a whole list of features that basically changed just based on when Mojang developed them. Speaking of changing when Mojang developed them, I have too many sponges because I carried them all back with me from the Nether, and so I can throw them against a cactus. Everyone knows this is one of the ways you can truly destroy an item in Minecraft. It's a bit weird for many people, but it does exist. But here's the weird thing. The cactus, look, this is a cactus that's wearing a hat and is begging me to fight him. The cactus can destroy all of these things, right? But it won't hurt me in the slightest. I am punching something that is so strong it can destroy Netherite, but it doesn't even hurt my fist. Doesn't make much sense if you ask me. Speaking of not making much sense, by the way, I love it. I love this very strong cactus boy even more. The cactus damage, second point here, would have to be that, you know, you can say, let's say we've got a piece of glass. Glass is this is a meter cubed of glass, and it's very heavy. You know, if you drop this in Minecraft, it survives just fine. You can drop it from any height, and the block of glass will be just great, honestly. But if you try to drop a block of glass off a cliff in real life, it's called an atrocity against a family of 4. And yeah, trust me, you don't want to learn that the hard way. And so as a result, why is it that in Minecraft you can block even the most fragile blocks from any height, the same blocks that can be destroyed by a single pin on a cactus? And the answer is games. Games do give you a clear set of rules, and those sets of rules don't necessarily follow the real world because it's coded in a language unlike the real world. You know, in real life, it's coded via a long series of biology that's been following us for 4.7 million years old, whereas Java is marginally younger than that, and so as a result, Minecraft is coded using a slightly less roundabout set of rules. Every single game has to tell you that basically, yeah, it is set up in a certain way that won't follow what you're used to, but it gives you clear signs to know that yes, a cactus will break this way, a block of diamond can't break no matter where you throw it, but it can break if you throw it against this thing, and players understand that and generally just choose not to throw their diamonds or even, again, netherite blocks. These can withstand lava, but they can't withstand a single poke from a cactus, which is funny, but welcome to gameplay mechanics. Speaking of gameplay mechanics, stamina is a weird one, right? Can we all agree that if you walk around in Minecraft forever, you know, everyone knows sprinting and swimming uses up stamina, but you can walk around in Minecraft forever without getting hungry. Not how the real world works. That's my whole point. My next point, also this is a very long one, what is a tree? So there is so many types of trees in Minecraft now. I like that there's a lot of variety, but then we have multiple types of trees that share the same wood. If you go to a swamp, the trees there, the swamp trees are, besides the mangrove, they're all oak trees just with vines. If you find an azalea tree, literally it has its own types of leaves. They are called azalea leaves, but if you try to break the wood, what is it called? Well, we all know it's called oak wood for some reason. Why is that the case? I have no idea. It just makes me want to harm somebody, honestly. But yeah, more seriously, I think that an interesting thing here is also being kind to animals. Minecraft makes such a big point. So also, by the way, azalea needs to have its own type of wood just for consistency reasons. This is one of those examples of a feature that doesn't have any in-game consistency reasoning to it. It doesn't make sense in the real world because every type of tree would have slightly different wood there, and it only makes sense if you think about it from a development resource perspective. This is the worst type of illogical feature because then every single time that they're trying to put realism first, it really makes you realize that, well, if realism comes after development resource and after the amount of art and stuff they can put together, then really I think that, you know, the animal cruelty concerns should be even lower than that. And realism doesn't need to be of the highest concern. It should be one of the third or fourth highest priorities. You know how airlines sometimes say, oh yeah, your safety and health on this today's flight is our number one priority. And it's like, no. Your number one priority should be flying places. If you keep people safe but no one gets anywhere, you've failed as an airline. And in the same way, Minecraft transportation is actually built around cruelty. The way that you get a horse to love you is you sit on him and then he bucks you off, and if he doesn't buck you off, oh look at it, he doesn't want me riding him, but I'm gonna do it over and over and over again, and eventually he gives up and I have a horse. This is animal, you shouldn't be doing this in my opinion, but that's how horses work, and even wilder is the pig, so I'm gonna have to set my spawn here because something bad might just happen, but let me show you something wild. You get an achievement in Minecraft, this one in fact, for riding a pig, so I'm gonna have to remove the pig from his confines of this post, and now I'm gonna lead the pig off a cliff, and you know what's gonna happen? The pig's gonna die, I'm gonna get an achievement, and we're gonna have to question what the heck just happened. Anyway, let's jump off now, and oh no, my ender pearls. I had a whole plan that was involving them. It was basically gonna be, I was gonna get back up there, but I guess I don't need it anymore. And just a reminder, if you ever need to organize your inventory, the easiest way is death. It's kind of like if you really don't want to deal with moving your stuff from apartment to apartment, just burn it down when you're done. Speaking of burning things down, have you ever tried to burn a boat? Because there are 9 separate types of boat in Minecraft, despite being 11 types of wood, even though maybe I'd argue there should be 12. Anyway, interesting thing about boats, maybe there's 8 types of boats in a raft, really. Look at that, by the way. That chicken is trapped in a boat. Tell me this makes any sense. This isn't even one of the items from the video, but just a little bonus fact for you in the middle. Why is it that the same 5 wooden planks of every type will make you a boat for every type besides the raft, but then the raft works exactly like a boat in that it traps animals in there? Why is the chicken staying in one place and flapping his wings? This is, honestly, it's illogical on every level. It doesn't even make sense on a development stage. It's just they wanted to make bamboo more interesting, and now forever there's this question about all of the boats being unique, but at least every other one of the 9 wood types has a boat. Azalea is looking mighty depressing with no unique wood type, but also the warped and crimson boats don't exist, and the reason behind this is basically if there was a boat made from crimson and warped, people would expect it to go in lava, and Minecraft didn't want to make a lava-proof boat. Instead, they would prefer use a strider, and so for the sake of saving your burning, they decided not to do these, which is kind of weird when you think about it. It's almost breaking the fourth wall in the Minecraft sense and saying, yeah, the developers couldn't add these because if they added these, people would assume they would do something which would get them killed, and yeah, this is not breaking the fourth wall. It's just done by anyone's explanation. If you're going to make the bamboo raft so different, why not make every boat unique in some way? Instead, there's just one wood type which is unique for some reason. It should just be crafted with bamboo if you want to make it something different. Boom, I've just decided a much better idea than they have. Also look, the chicken's legs don't move even as the thing wobbles. Speaking of things that don't wobble, next up here, let's talk about flammable, inflammable items. When you craft, so you know, the reason they can't make the boats out of these woods is because they are inflammable woods. However, if you are to make a bookcase out of them or any other wooden recipe, be it the chest or the crafting table, it burns just the same no matter what wood it's made out of, because once you make a bookshelf or a crafting table or a chest, Minecraft doesn't know what wood you made it from because they all look like they're made from oak. This is honestly, given they've made wooden variants of everything, it's hard to justify on any level. I think ultimately, it's one of those things that exists because it exists. It is a self-referential loop that really doesn't make much sense, so instead, we'll move on to funky rocks. Rocky logic, indeed. There are 4 funky rocks in Minecraft that meet the criteria that Minecraft themselves set for something being a staircase material, which is it has to be a crafted stone material. You can craft basalt into different things. You can craft tough soon, and dripstone is arguably crafted, but you cannot make stairs out of any of these, and the answer as to why is move on, wait for another update to come out or something. Speaking of waiting for another update, here are 9 colors of colored clay, I guess it's really dyed, hardened clay, and as you can see, they are beautiful. However, if you just smelt the clay first into bricks, it is undyeable. Why is that? I don't know, man. You know what else confuses me? The whole idea of hardened, of a glazed clay is also a little bit strange that it gets all those patterns mixed in. Why is it that, and you know, really, because the one logic you could say is, well, when you smelt the brick, it obviously removes the ability to do that. Why is it that smelted bricks can't be all funky and colorful like this? And also, where do the extra colors come from? You only give it a red dye, where does this white come from? You only give it a cyan dye, where does the black come from? And when you give it a lime dye, the yellow comes from somewhere? The answer is, who knows? It's just aesthetic. Speaking of aesthetic, you know what'd be really nice? In the same way you can make redstone trails, why can't you make gunpowder trails for example, lighting TNT? There's no good reason I can think of for this one besides, ultimately, every single feature that Minecraft wants to add to make realism does take development time. And so, in a ultimate sense, no game can ever be truly realistic until it can simulate the Earth perfectly, and look at Minecraft. They're not doing that anytime soon, and they don't need to, because a game can be more interesting than real life. If a game was perfectly realistic, then it would lead to me being sat here it would lead to me being sat right here recording a video inside the game of a game inside of that game. Otherwise, it's not true realism because it's not what's happening in my real life. Speaking of my real life, I've never tried to randomly turn on the face cam mid-video before. Hope you appreciated that. So next up here, I've got I lava my bucket, because don't we all lava our buckets sometimes? Lava shouldn't fit in buckets because it's really hot and iron would melt in it. If you can use a lava bucket to smelt iron into buckets, then clearly it is hot enough for you get the point. This is dumb. Speaking of things that are dumb, Minecraft animal cruelty. One more point on this before we leave it. Why is it that they say that we shouldn't be hurting animals, and then the first source of gear you can get in Minecraft, and arguably the most customizable, is leather? The answer is what seems like hypocrisy, but probably comes down to this different cycles of development. Minecraft has been developed by a lot of people over a lot of time, and they have disagreements about how certain things should be treated, and it's fun to see that. Next up, why is it that you can't hatch an Ender Dragon egg? Anyone got a good reason? No, we'll move in. Why? We'll move on. Why is it that only these 7 mobs have heads? It's interesting. They added the piglin head recently, but then why only these 7? There's no way to get the Steve head in survival. I mean, it wouldn't make sense on me anyway. I'm gonna be honest, if you've ever seen my skin with the Steve head applied, you'll realize very quickly that this is not a good idea for anyone. But yeah, why is it that these heads exist, and why are they obtained in such a weird way? It's one of those fun trophy items that honestly works perfectly the way it is for most people, but also doesn't make any sense in the game. If they made it realistic, you'd have to go in and specifically headshot a zombie or the dragon or something. And yeah, the only one of these that I think is interesting is the dragon head, because it has that little bit of lore of them being found in the end cities. This is interesting game design. The rest of them are quirky game design, I would say, which is fine. Speaking of quirky game design, let me talk about something that's been weighing me down for a while. So if you have iron, you can craft it into pressure plates, yes, and then into trapdoors and into regular doors. If you have wood, you can do the same. But if you have stone, blackstone, or gold, you cannot do the same. There is no blackstone door or gold door. Why is that? Why is it that it's a functional material for this, but not for that? And the answer is, well, when they added blackstone, they felt a trapdoor was needed, but a door wasn't. And when they added weighted pressure plates, the gold was just the right way to do it. Did it make any sense at the time? Probably not. Did anyone care too much? I don't actually think so. Next up, we have trading lives. So I assume that my villager has gone missing here. So let's make a very vague point instead. Why is it that mobs despawn? I want to trade some stones with my boy over there. Why is it that he's willing to trade that, first of all? But why did he despawn? In the real world, if you get too far away from a friend, they don't just magically disappear. There's something called object permanence, which we discover when we're about 2 to 3 years old, which is the idea that things in the world exist even when you're not looking. It's one of the, to kind of tie it into the biggest fear of being a YouTuber, many people forget that you exist. It's one of the weird things about being like in the public eye, is your whole goal is to have people think about you and remember you. So they might think like, oh yeah, I should look at their videos or their Instagram posts or whatever it is that you're trying to encourage. That is the whole goal of any form of, ooh, that's interesting, right? That's the whole goal of anything like that. However, ultimately, object permanence is when you realize, it's trying to make people realize that you're there even when you're not. And in children, the idea is that you realize that even when you shut your eyes or even when you look away, things still exist. In Minecraft, object permanence has not been developed yet. And so Minecraft is less realistic than the mind of a 5-year-old. That's my vague point here. But yeah, I also think it's interesting that we all are trying to hope that people we care about on some level will remember us even when they're looking away or when they shut their eyes. And I hope that you remember someone when you look away or shut your eyes. Also, just in case you didn't love that, this is the weirdest thing to me. Where does the iron come from? How is it the iron is there until I do this? What sense does that make? There's extra iron appearing from nowhere just because I open this trap door? It doesn't make sense, you might say. Next up, we have Color Me Confused. Look at the color wheel in Minecraft. Do you notice anything missing? Nah, me neither. It's perfect the way it is. Next up, we've got I Am Trying to Know the Answer. So I'm guessing this one is the weirdness of being able to, here is a sheep that is green, and now he is white. Why is it that if I were to, so we'll dye this sheep green with 1 dye, right? And then we shear him, and we get 2 dye. And if we want to turn those back white, in the same way we could have done for the full animal, it now takes 2 white dye. There's not and then if we want to go back to green, 2 green dye. There's no logical reason why it should be 1 dye for a whole sheep. By the way, you can't dye a sheep when he has no wool. 1 dye for a whole sheep, or 2 dye for the result of the sheep. The answer is different systems, different times. Most people don't think about it, and so it's fine. Also, I don't know what I'm going to do with these extra spare sheep now. I didn't use them for the demonstration. Do you think I should let them all go? I think that's the only reasonable thing to do. Let's do it. You know what? I'm sorry, sheep. Goodbye. Have a good life down there. Oh. They probably had a good life for the split second they were down there. Speaking of good life, what choice do I have? Okay, so here's a fun thing. When it comes to cooking different foods and different, various things and different items, you really have some really specific choices of what you can cook and what you can't. Some games give you full freedom about, choosing recipes, and some games, like Minecraft, are like, okay, This food works there, but only when the campfire is lit, obviously. This food will work great, so this will cook a lot of items, but not things like beetroots. You can't cook beetroots, but you can cook potatoes. You can't cook carrots. You can't cook apples, even with the pork chops. There's no recipe combinations. Instead, Minecraft gives you a specific list of what is allowed and what isn't. So cooking my stones, for example, will work in the furnace. It will also, but it won't work in the blast furnace, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the list of what works where is actually kind of confusing if you really think about it. And also you can't cook things in hot water, even if you really want to. I can sous vide a steak in real life, but I can't do it in Minecraft. You know what else I can't do in Minecraft? Fuel the fire. So this is... yeah, I love my little copper golem. How is it that, for example, putting in some... I don't think books will work. I'm gonna have to go grab some lava real quick. Sorry for doubting you. But how is it that when you fuel a fire, it decides to go for different amounts of time, whether or not there's anything cooking? So I can make a book sandwich right now, but more realistically, I'll go for some raw chicken. How is it that we can cook whether or not there's food in there for the same amount of time? In general, fires are used up more by having to change the things in there, and also in general, the long story short of this is different foods last furnaces for different amounts of time that don't line up with real life at all, because it makes for a more interesting gameplay mechanic. Just like how we've got some fun weathers right here. Rain on me, but not on my fire. Do you notice I had a campfire earlier that didn't have any fire in it? This is something you might not have seen if you've never used a shovel, but even when it rains, your campfire won't go out. At the same time, neither will skulk sensors activate, because rain is not considered a rain makes water pour down, it will fill a cauldron even, but it's not a real weather effect in that it doesn't affect most things like fire, because it would be annoying to players. Minecraft have made the game more convenient at the sacrifice of reality, and that's something I think a lot of people would choose. Next up here, let's talk about unlimited fuel. So, I'm gonna be honest, I forgot, there's 68 of these, I forgot what I was going for when I made this point, but isn't this a beautiful man? Look at him, he's made out of mud bricks, and there's a point about how you can make fuel from fuel in here somewhere. Also, this sheep has been following me a while now, huh? Let's hope he follows me all the way to the end. Next up here, we've got It's a Real Pain, and that has to do with the fact that you can make stained glass panes, or you can make panes of glass out of every type of glass in Minecraft, bar one. Can you guess which one it is? It's really hard to tell, I know, but yeah, tinted glass doesn't come as panes. Why is that? The answer is actually technical. The block presumably would work less well, but also why is it that you can break tinted glass with your fist and get it back? I don't understand. It's glass. It's meant to, it can kill lots of people, but yeah, tinted glass can't be made into tinted glass panes, and it also can be broken with your fist. What is it about this that makes it look like it should be broken with your fist, though? Can someone please explain that to me? What about the tint makes it breakable with a fist and recoverable and usable again? I've never seen a window that you can break and then put back without any cracks, but tinted glass works just great. Also, no matter, even if your glass is tinted in the real world, if you throw it off a cliff, there's still going to be a lot of screams at the bottom. Anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the next one here. Fetch me an idea for a Fletcher. Look at all of these different items that they introduced in 1.14. They're all new workstations for villagers to do things with. So for example, if you've got a smithing villager, he goes to the smithing table every day. If you've got an armorer villager, he goes to the blast furnace every day. A food villager goes to the smoker, etc, etc. I think everyone understands this idea. However, all of these blocks have functionality besides the Fletchers. The fletching table does nothing. It's been years, Minecraft. You said you'd revisit it. Why haven't you done so? But more seriously, I think an interesting point here is the fact that the fletching table doesn't work, and so every other villager is going to work every day, actually doing something to do with their craft, but the fletching table villagers are just lying to us. They go, oh yeah, such a hard day at work today. I had to fletch arrows. And everyone else is like, oh, is that like crafting them? And they're like, no, you don't craft arrows at the fletching table. They're like, what do you do? Oh, it's too complicated. You won't understand what fletching an arrow is like. And so, as your resident villager, let me assure you that fletching villagers are lazy, and therefore they deserve to have glass thrown on them from above. Speaking of thrown on them from above, let's go ahead and talk about my expectations why is it that this, think about it, right? You're breaking a campfire. Why is it that you don't get your wood back, you get some charcoal back? It is, that is something they are changing the amounts of, and it's very, very, very sad, don't get me wrong. But it's weird that you don't get your wood back when it will exist as wood for so long. I can see the wood in the campfire right now. Why don't I get any back? The answer is because it chars the moment that you craft one, and that's weird to me. Speaking of weird to me, let's talk about a villager with no village. So this is my jungle village. Oh, he's not a very good jungle villager. You know, we have a low budget for these videos, but more seriously, there's also the mangrove villager, the swamp villager, who could do of his own type of village. This is something that's odd because this is Mojang putting in extra effort. They made more villager types than they made villages, and immediately it makes us, the community, question, so why aren't there jungle villagers and swamp villagers, when they could have just not added the swamp villagers and the jungle villagers, and we'd never ask. This is kind of a no good deed goes unpunished situation, where the effort that they put into the game makes us expect more effort from it in a weird way, and it's kind of sad when you think about it like that. Like, yeah, the more effort you put into something, the more people will ask about, like, well, why didn't you do more? And ultimately, it's, you know, like, now that crawling exists in Minecraft, crawling feels weird, but it's better to have official crawling than to not. And the same thing is true for these villagers. In games development is an interesting job of managing expectations, because if you put more effort into it, people might call you lazier than if you just put in less. And if that's not tragic, I don't know what is. Speaking of tragic, flint and iron. Have you ever tried to craft a flint and steel before? You need 2 ingredients. You'll never guess what they are. One is flint. That's not flint. One is flint, and one is iron. And so, wait, no, that would be a flint and iron, surely. But when you craft the flint and iron together, it becomes flint and steel. Making steel in the real world involves extremely high temperatures and furnaces. It's one of the great revolutions of the world. Making steel in Minecraft involves putting some flint next to it. And again, it's just, the reason behind this is presumably because Minecraft doesn't want a steel item just for this one use, but it is kind of quirky, right? It's a good example of a compromise that no one even really thinks about most of the time, but is very, very strange. Also, why can't I find flint in all of these stones? I mean, flint is a very nebulous term in real life, but you should be able to find it in more, you might assume. Next up, I am suspicious of this. So this is a judge of the server, and I've got some suspicious gravel and some suspicious sand hanging out right here. You know, who are they to say that these blocks are suspicious? Suspicious is objectively the wrong word for it, right? Suspicious should maybe, because every single suspicious block has something in it unless it's unnaturally placed. Suspicious is not the correct term for what is clearly happening here, but it is humorous, just like how it's humorous when you're in a court case and there are 3 separate faces of dispensers facing you. Man, I love that, you know, this is one of those weird things. Dispensers, droppers, and observer blocks make such a great grand jury between them. Speaking of grand juries, that's something that I'm going to need a reason for. Give me a reason, give me a reason. So here's something fun, right? Let's say you've got some amethyst together. Well, you could craft it into an amethyst block. I don't have all of them right now, but just 4 amethyst shards put together would make a block of amethyst, everyone's favorite jingly jangly block. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me jingle jangle for a bit over you. Yeah. Yeah, this is great, isn't it? So why is it that you can do this for amethyst shards and you can do it for prismarine as well? Is this prismarine? Yeah, just turn 4 of it into 1 block, or 9 of it into a brick, which really shouldn't it be 4 of these that makes a prismarine brick, but we'll leave that aside for now. Why is it you can't do the same with echo shards? You could make a seriously cool block of this, and I'm not convinced that this isn't going to happen at some point, but for now, no echo shards will make a magical cucumber block, and I'm very sad about that. You know what else I'm sad about? The fact that bricks are really, really limited. If you look at the number of bricks we have right now, bricks and deep slate bricks and regular bricks and then endstone bricks, why aren't there more varieties of bricks? There are lots of things we could make them from. Indeed, if there are prismarine bricks, why aren't there amethyst bricks? Those could be really, really cool. The answer as to why we don't have more bricks is because someone at Minecraft decides, and then we all have to accept it. Even though Minecraft has 300 million players and we see it as a big platform, it's still ultimately some people who make decisions about how all of this game logic that we have to know and accept works, which is interesting to think about, right? Speaking of interesting to think about, cut me some slack for asking, but why is it that copper is the only thing that rusts? Why is it that you have to deal with waxing it and everything else and not any other blocks? And also, why is it that the number of things you can make with copper are then different to iron? I'm going to reiterate this point in a second, but just to take a quick break from that and say, wow, you've almost made it to the end. Very good job. I think you deserve some cake. If you were going to have some cake, I would say don't eat it all at once, and that's something you'd agree with. This is too much cake for one person. I'll just take a few slices for now and come back for the rest later. Why can't I do the same with beef? Look how much beef this is. Seriously, if you were to eat that much beef in one session, you might say to yourself like, oh, sure am full right now, could do with coming back for that later. And indeed, the amount of healing that beef gives you makes you consider that actually to be a good idea. But nope, that's not how it works in Minecraft. Cake is the only food that lets you do that, and it's also the only food that you can eat instantly, which, I mean, to be fair, it's very good food. I would eat cake instantly in the real world if you offered me some too, but it's still very, very strange. Speaking of strange, here is some iron, here is some copper. Here is the copper aging very slowly. Why is my iron not rusting? I mean, I can understand it's not oxidizing in the same way, but iron in the real world, especially when it's close to an ocean, and in Minecraft you're rarely more than a few hundred blocks away from an ocean. I can see 2 right here. Iron should be rusting all the time and you should have to fix it, but that wouldn't be very fun, is the probable explanation. But I don't personally find the oxidization of copper to be that fun. I like it when it's fully oxidized or not fully oxidized, but these stages in between just kind of suck and exist to get you between them. Maybe we should have rusted iron too, just for the sake of realism, right? Next up, invincible plants. Do you see my plants right here? And do you see how some of them are dead? Why is it that these ones require water, or they'll die immediately, that is to say coral blocks, but trees, or indeed any crops, you can grow crops without water? Why is it that that's true? The answer is just please don't ask. You know, I'm starting to get to the bottom of the Illuminati at this point. I tried to excuse it till just now, but clearly there is a secret group of people that rule us all, that decide how the world's going to work, and they're called Mojang employees, and ultimately, they usually make some pretty good decisions. A good example of this might be the color of the sand. Sand in Minecraft comes in 2 colors, but concrete dye comes in 16. And I can make this point 1,000,000,000 times, but if there's one hill I would die on, it's the fact that you should be able to dye concrete powder or dye sand in some way, because imagine how great it would be to make these coral reefs or these beautiful undersea beaches out of different colored concrete, but you can't do that right now. And so with that said, those are your 68 facts about Minecraft. I'm just kidding, it's 69. You read the title, this isn't a mislead. The 69th most unrealistic thing about Minecraft is, unlike in the real world, where if you're not subscribed to IBX Toycat, you are statistically going to be more, you know, like greater than 99% of house fires happen to non-IBX Toycat subscribers. In the game, if you're not subscribed to IBX Toycat, if you don't log onto a machine, your house doesn't catch fire more often statistically. This is very, very odd, and it's the most inaccurate of all of them. And yeah, more seriously though, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. One of my favorite things, and one of the things we really are putting more effort to this year, is these big, full recaps of entire subjects in Minecraft. They're taking a lot more time, but I hope that you're finding the fruits of them to be worthwhile, because this is something that I love to share. There are so many interesting things about Minecraft, and if you've enjoyed the depth that we got to dive into this topic, then please do consider subscribing. If you want to see some bigger videos, then I'll link a couple of the very big ones. But for now, thank you for watching, and bye. I'm going to take off the head to give you a real goodbye and say thank you, but I'll see you next time. Bye.